Quo Vadis is the question of today's video, and we're going to find out what the future holds for us Planet Zoo fans in the DLCs and also in the free updates. So let's do it. But before we really start to talk about the details, let me just give you a brief framework of what is going on today. We're going to start with the free update part of Planet Zoo and what could be potentially going on in the future, and we're going to start with watching the reveal trailer again, because there are a little bit of kind of little insights in there I want to talk about very briefly, and also just to make that very obviously and very clear, this is just speculation. This is just talking about where I personally think the game goes. There are a couple of good reasons to why I'm doing this, which I'm going to outline throughout the video, but just so you are aware, this is just my personal opinion and you can follow it or not. That's totally up to you. But now let's get started with the video and then let's have a look what the reveal trailer actually told us right before we had a lot of things coming. Alright, we are briefly skipping through the reveal trailer of Planet Zoo back in the day. This was our first sight at the game, and before we go through the video, let me just quickly give you a little heads up, because this one is a concept art trailer. So that means this is not in-game, this is fully animated, and nothing in this is actually in-game. However, you will really easily see that I would say 99.5% of what you can see in this concept art has actually been translated into the game. The missing 0.5% we're going to talk about, and they give us a little bit of an idea where we could go in the future. But I want to give this to you because I found this, doing a little bit of research, I found this very interesting to see. So I'm just going to keep it running once and then talk you through real quick. So I love the story that we have while you can see everything happening, and here you can see the little girl following the tour through it, taking some selfies, seeing what the little elephant is doing. Over here we can see some of our very much loved and beloved little enrichment pieces. We can see some of the shop fronts already. We can see some of the animals obviously that have been in the base game. Most of this you can see over here has been in the base game. Another obvious enrichment tool you could have seen there, and then a couple of other things. So there's a lot to talk about this video in particular, because there are a couple of really cool things to spot, and also along the way I will make you aware of some things that you might not see looking at this the first time right now, because I needed to watch this a couple of times as well. But yeah, let's do it. So we're going to go back now to the very beginning, and yeah, the opening shot is very much not something we need to look at, but let's just zoom in here a little bit to this point in time. I think this point is already a very good one. Remember, this is our very first sight we got at the game. Look at this wonderful pathway down here. Look at this pattern, look at the bricks. This is in fact the path that we just got with the Europe DLC 2 years after the launch of the game, even 6 months plus, so 2.5 years from this trailer, which is just nuts. The same goes for this bench. It is exactly the bench in the game, even with the right color that the game has when you have this bench in. So it's very close to what you can see over here. Also, this seems to be like the early version of the concrete wall with a window in here. Not gonna lie, I love this window integration a lot more than what we have in our current state of the game, but we could obviously easily build this ourselves. You can also see the way how animals are brought into the habitat. It has been carried over, and one little detail, the selfie is in, and no one would have actually put any thoughts about that watching this. I didn't, at least at the beginning. She's taking a selfie, and in fact people doing that in the game is kind of ridiculous. At least they're taking photos. I'm not quite aware if they do selfies, but they do take photos with the phones, which is pretty cool. Let's zoom quickly forward. And to this spot over here, you can see the little animal playing with the ball, pretty much what we see in the game. This pool over here is one of these 0.5% missing, not gonna lie. This is something I spotted which could be cool, like a new enrichment item, which, spoiler ahead, this is the first thing we're going to talk about in the free update stuff. Now, you can see one more thing over here. This is an educator obviously talking guests through, and remember, the educator has been brought in relatively late to the game. If I remember correctly, it was only second last update alongside the South American animal pack, I believe it was, the animal talks. And yeah, it's been a huge update for us when it was launched into the game, and something we have seen already in the reveal trailer. How cool is that? Moving forward, you can see on the left hand side there is a normal building with most of the pieces we got in the base game, so nothing crazy to spot over here. But if we zoom a little bit forward, we are coming into this scene where you can see the scratch post, which is almost perfectly exactly the one that we have in the game. The lion model is obviously not comparable because of this animated style. You can see a lot of things. This is exactly the lamppost or lantern we have in the game. But look at these teeny tiny little grass pieces down here. They almost look like the ones we got with the African pack. So a lot of things that might have been considered from the very beginning and just put back into packs for later on. Not saying that everything in those packs has been done from the beginning already, but I'm quite aware of the fact that they did do some changes along the way, but some things have been there from the beginning. Same goes for everything else you can see in this shot over here. However, one thing I want to point out real quick is this food trough thingy over here. Again, a little hint to what we're going to talk about in a second. But now let's move forward. I don't want to bother you too much with it. The splashy effects with the bear over here are fantastic, by the way. I wish the VFX could be improved a little bit, but yeah, let's move forward with that. You can see they're having the bears a little bit of a interaction over here, and then going over here into the African area. I love the fact how much this is again exactly what we have in the game. Like everything, the pieces, even the patterns and stuff is exactly from the game. So you can see in comparison to Planet Coaster, which has been vastly different from its reveal trailer, there's a lot that wasn't exactly the way it was. Planet Zoo is so much closer to what the real life game in the end delivered. Over here you can see a climbing frame with these little climbing pieces, the lemurs jumping from one to another spot, people running over here, and she's entering the gate. And this is now going to be the shot that is most interesting for us. Before the logo takes in, I'm just going to go exactly into this frame before the logo turns in. Now, there is not really that much you can spot in here, and there has been a concept art which showed a bit more, and most of the stuff you can see in this shot is already in game. Couple of things that I'm willing to say might have been integrated a different way, but they're all in. One thing that I see is this big kind of thingy in the back, which by any means can be done in the game, like out of the box. And many of the things that we see in this trailer are being done very easily in the game by plopping down things. So you can see a lot of concept art already going on for themes and packs that we got later on. And this looks insanely like a huge aviary. And this is also where we are going to talk about a bit more in the next coming minutes. But you can see there are some little hints here. Obviously, this can only be like a planting house or like a tropical dome or whatnot, as people have done multiple times. But again, there's another very suspicious building right over here. And if you really took a deeper look into how they have treated making the video and how much they went into a very, 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 very classic zoo approach, it might make sense to reconsider if this might not be actually an aviary, because, you know, that's what they would do. Anyways, let's talk about the free update now. Okay, we've looked into the reveal trailer again and found some things, and the first thing I want to really briefly talk about is enrichment pieces. I think for the next big update, free update, I wish that Frontier is going to go back to the enrichment items a little bit and maybe enlarge the number of base game items. Like, honestly, there's a good number of enrichment items, but especially variety is lacking a little bit at this point. More specifically, with the very base items being food and water delivery, or, you know, water troughs and food troughs for the animals. They are kind of boring, to be honest, and there could be a huge improvement by just adding a couple of variants to it, you know. But just in general, I think the overall area of enrichment pieces offers so much more potential that it makes a lot of sense to invest a bit of time and passion and input and whatnot to go deeper into that. Mr. Leiter from the community, he is insane when it comes to all of these things. He's got this brilliant series of research done. I can only highly recommend watching this. If I remember, I'm going to put the link down below in the description. He's doing some fantastic stuff, and he's done, for example, a pack with custom enrichment items and custom food items. And I really wish that Frontier is going to take some of this as inspiration and bring this back into the game to give us a better variety of food and just in general of enrichment items for the animals in the game. I think this is a huge part that they can leverage to make the game even better. Moving on to the next one, I really briefly want to talk about the likeliness of a diving and flying mechanic. I think this is the very obvious one. We have the diving mechanic in the game, but one thing that is obviously missing is the full aquatic ability of animals. We only have semi-aquatic animals in the game. We've not a single fully aquatic animal in there, not even in small exhibits. And I'm 100% sure that at some point in time we might see this with actual aquariums, because, you know, these small exhibits and aquariums, they would be just too good of a fit to not do it. Like, seriously, this is just like a must-have. So I think we can checkmark that relatively easy. But I think this is not the way to go for the next update. And you might be confused why I'm talking about this in the free update part. Well, as we know, Frontier, they do not bring these things in exclusively for the DLC. Even I made the mistake and kind of put this function into the DLC section of the aquatic DLC back then. That was unfortunately not true, because they added the mechanic to the base game in the first place. Because if you had the base game, you had the crocodile diving for you, the saltwater crocodile. So the mechanic was in game. And the same goes for flying. And I'm quite sure that they will do this. Only this time around, I'm relatively sure that they will integrate a free animal again, just because I think there's no other way of doing it. I mean, sure, they could make the flamingo or the peacock fly, but I think that's not like exactly the way to go, because these animals are very likely to not fly other than just a couple of inches, you know. I mean, flamingos do fly quite a bit, but they don't do in zoos. So it wouldn't be really, you know, realistic to do that. So I'm quite sure they would add at least one free animal to bring this mechanic in game. So I think it's really obvious that this is the next step to go with the free update. But there's more. There's so much more. And a huge thanks goes back to Mr. Eben, because we had a brief chat in the Quali chat. Yes, it's still live, by the way. And we were talking about what kind of stuff can be brought over from the Planet Coaster days, because in fact there's not really that much left. And one thing he mentioned, and I'm fully happy with that, is FlexiColor staff members. This is something we got in Planet Coaster relatively soon. You could recolor the staff members. You could just make a different color pattern for everything you had every staff member you had in the game. And I think this would add a lot more variety to your zoos, to really get your zoo a personal kind of CI almost, and just, you know, color them in a color scheme that you want. Going back to the trailer we watched at the beginning of the video, this is exactly what they showed us in this as well. There was a different kind of clothing going on. So I'd really love to see that ability back added into the game, because that gave us a huge leap forward to customization when it comes to stuff. I mean, we already got the boothless shops, so why not go that one step further? But there's more. There's even more. And there are two things I want to talk about, of which I think one is likely and the other isn't, but I really wish that it was the other way around. But anyways, so the first thing is remodels. I think at this point in time, and I talked about that in my last videos quite a bit, some of the early game animals, you know, for example, the lion, as I said, or also the African elephant, frankly, they look fine considering they've been very early on in the game, but they don't, at least in my opinion, and as it turned out from your comments also, it seems the majority of you things like that, they can't keep up with the models that Frontier brought in over the last 2 years. The quality got better and better and better, and some, not all of them, actually not even loads of them, but some of the early game animals would really need a rework. And by rework, I'm not talking about the animation. I'm really talking about the looks of it. I really wish they would take away a bit of the comic-y appeal to them and just bring in a bit more realism as they did with the new animals, and that would be a very much appreciated feature for a free update. The next free update I would love to see is different guest clothing. I mean, this is something I have been talking about from the first winter update in Planet Coaster, when that is nearly 5 years ago. Ridiculous. But man, I can still not handle the fact that we have biomes in which you wouldn't wear shirts and shorts, and still the guest in Planet Zoo just join your zoo, whatever temperature it is, in the same freaking cloth. And it would just add so much more depth to the game if, first of all, the seasons would act normally. Please fix that. I'm not even putting that into an update. This is a fix for me. But according to this, I really would love to see the guest being a bit of a better part in terms of clothing. And I think, you know, the fix could be really easily by treating the different seasons as they are, and then just have like a transition period of like half a month in which every new guest that comes into the zoo has already, you know, a different clothing style. And I think this would be insanely important to add a bit more of realism to the game. I really would love to see that. But yeah, that should be it for the moment for the free update part. I will say though, as a little bit of a conclusion here, I'm quite sure that there will be loads of things I haven't even talked about. You only have to look into the Q&A section of the forums lately. Frontier seems to be deriving a lot of updates right from over there. So I tried to go with my personal list here, but there are so many good things from the community that I really would wish to see in the game. But yeah, that's just a little list. You can obviously tell me in the comments down below what you wish to see. That would be fantastic, and I really would love to see what you guys come up with. Now let's talk about DLCs, and this is going to be an interesting one because this is going to go into a direction that you guys, and I'm quite sure about that, will not have expected. Let's get first of all one thing away from our desk here. Yeah, obviously we are going to get new animals, don't we? And potentially new pieces, but I don't want to talk about that because that's obvious, and I could make a video about different animal packs, and obviously I want to get birds, and obviously I want to get full aquatic stuff, and it would be really cool to have some manatees in, just to name some, and it would be cool to have some eagles in, and you know, vultures and stuff. That would be really cool, but you know, I think people have talked about that quite enough, and I think people have talked about that. But let's go beyond that. Let's go actually into something that has been considered way too less, if you ask me, or way too little. And this is the sheer vast amount of things that could be added to the game as a DLC, in addition to make the game a better experience overall without distracting the core of the game. And I'm starting with the same thing I started in the free update, only for the DLC, and I'm talking about enrichment items. So here's the thing. Enrichment items are in the game, and you've got enough enrichment items for every single animal, and that said, the core game is running. But what would be really cool would be to have an enrichment pack, like a DLC enrichment pack, in which we get some really cool, unique enrichment items for different species. Let me just give you one example. I built a specific fake, obviously, but a specific enrichment item for the cheetah in Yosemite Valley. It was a prey hunting line, as it was called, and that's kind of a, yeah, I don't know how long it is. Let's put it 20-30 meter line, you know, which is having like a little sack of prey onto it, and then it's going to be dragged over the ground so the cheetah can actually run after it, because that's what they do in real life. They hunt down things, you know. And this is pretty cool. Having such a thing in the game with the added animation for the animal would be something really cool. So just imagine how much possibilities you would have to integrate. You could make, like as I said earlier on, you could make different kind of packs in terms of enrichment item food, enrichment item drink, or maybe everything in one pack, you know, the big enrichment item pack, because there's like so much out there that could still be done, and the enrichment pieces got so much better over time anyways, and they already have been part of the DLCs anyways, which is pretty cool. And Frontier always handled that in a very nice way. They always handled it so that most of the enrichment items were not only available to the DLC animals only, but also to some others. So you got an added benefit from getting the DLC, not only for the DLC animals, but also for the others in the game, which is cool. And I think the same thing could be true here as well. Like if you if you have like a new big cat enrichment item, this obviously works for all big cats, whether it's going to be base game cats or DLC game or DLC pack cats, for example. So that would be absolutely ridiculous and one of my favorite additions as a pack ever, and I would totally get that pack right away. Okay, the next one is a bit controversial because I should have talked about that in the free update, but I decided against it because it's gonna be a point here anyways. This could be a ride pack. Yes, a ride pack. What is a ride pack in a zoo? Well, let me just explain. We do have transport rides in the game, and we've got a couple of facilities for guests, like restaurants and stuff. But there has been a game called Planet Coaster, which had a lot of different rides, flat rides and stuff for guests to entertain them. And this is what zoos do nowadays as well. But this time around, I'm not really talking about these types of coasters and stuff. I'm talking about a huge variety of different types of rides for zoos, because zoos are going to explore this field a lot more. Like, what about the boats tour we have in game? But there are so many different kind of almost like log flume style or little different boat style tours that could be a nice addition. The monorail is cool, but could have also a different model. And yeah, not even speaking about the gondola. I think everyone hates the gondola, to be honest. I've never seen anyone using the gondola in a good context, to be honest. I wish we had a different model on that one. But yeah, like these things would add a lot more, and also including maybe like a slide for kids and a carousel or whatnot. And you know, that would be absolutely insane, and I would totally enjoy a pack like that. Again, always keep in mind, as I said, Frontier is always having the same strategy so that the base game is not influenced in a core way. So if they would add like a carousel, obviously it would be really cool to have something for the base game. Let's say the base carousel would be added to the base game as a free update, and then some other flat rides and stuff would be added with the DLC. That would be absolutely massive. I would really love that. Okay, and the last one in my list today is a certain prop DLC. I'm gonna call it prop. It could also be like a backstage or facility DLC, whatever you want to call it. I think we still lack a lot of different things in and around basic pieces when it comes to making underground stuff, internal stuff, like really the stuff that is needed for building viewing galleries and stuff. I'm not really sure how I want to put this, but it should be these kind of things like underwater tunnels and tunnel pieces and awnings and arches and different signs, like a whole bunch of signs, different billboards, and you know, all these things that you would need would be brilliant as a pack as well. And I think it really would add to the immersion of a zoo, and many of those things are being created by the community with teeny tiny intricate pieces. Just ask Ricey, for example, or Lider. They are just making stuff that is insanely small but insanely heavy on your piece count, because they just go ridiculously nuts with those pieces. And I really would love to see a pack like that, also with a whole bunch of backstage props, just like different types of crates, boxes, and all these kind of things. All the stuff we have in the staff centers already, like as things that you can see in the different staff buildings, just give them to us as props. That would be absolutely ridiculous. And all these things I just talked about could be in these animal packs instead of, let's call them regional packs, because we nearly have all architectural styles in the game, and I think all these different styles in the game mixed together can achieve nearly everything else. I'm thinking we really don't like anything in terms of a zoo. Maybe this kind of basic stuff, as I'm just talking about, more concrete pieces and blah blah blah. You know, the very core of a zoo, that would be highly appreciated. But everything else is in there. So focusing on different things would be really good to generate a lot more depth to the game and also make these DLCs a lot more valuable for the community and for the people, because at a certain point I think there's a fair point to why people should consider buying another pack with a lot of pieces when the pieces don't add much more value. And honestly though, I thought the same before the Euro pack, and then the Euro pack was maybe the best pack ever when it comes to pieces. But I think at a certain point this is just drained out and we would need kind of a different area to delve into, and I think this will be it. That's just what I'm thinking about. But yeah, here I am, and this is it. It's not completely it. I have one honorable mention though. Some easy fixes, and I struggled if I want to put them in as an update or not, but can we just mix and match the different path styles, please? I think that would be really cool to decide whether we want to have a certain railing on a certain ground pattern and vice versa, just to mix them together and get a bit more control over how our in-game path would look. That would be fantastic, but that's about it. That was the honorable mention, so yeah, let's draw a little conclusion. Okay, the video got way longer than expected, which is in no way surprising for you guys, because you know me. It seems I don't know myself, but it just got longer and longer because I am carried away by so many things that could be done in this game. And this is already the segue into my core message I want to get through. I think the game is not finished at all in terms of what we can add to the game and want to have in the game. I really do not think that Frontier at a certain point now needs to switch into a more animal packs only mode, which some people suggest they should do after maybe the next big aviary DLC with a lot of aviary pieces. But we don't even know if it's going to be an aviary pack in the first place. So I think it would be pretty stupid to already call it a day in terms of additions to the game. And in comparison to how Planet Coaster was after 2.5 years, this game aged a lot better in terms of so many things. The community, but also in terms of the playability of the game. The graphics and stuff, they didn't age that poorly as it was with Planet Coaster, which is mostly down to the fact that they have upgraded the engine throughout the process, which they haven't done in Planet Coaster at all. And also because in general the game was a lot more polished in comparison to Planet Coaster at the beginning, which is just natural because it's the same engine, just, you know, developed over the years. And I'm a big fan of seeing Frontier exploring this field a lot more and a lot more different than I have talked about today. Obviously, if I hit one or two things, that would be fantastic, but they will hopefully surprise me, and I have high hopes because, as I said in my recent videos, Frontier has found their way back, I guess, into a certain move of getting really the feedback of players in the right way and then integrating the right things back into the game. And I hope that they keep on doing this because that's making the game a lot better, and I really hope that they go this way. But yeah, so I'm very hopeful. I talked you through all these things that I wish would happen in the future, and I tried to go into some things that might be a bit surprising. But now let me know in the comments down below what you think about the future, and also did you like some of the ideas I had? Were some of them surprising to you or not? And do you have some surprising ideas? Drop them down in the comments down below. As always, if you want to know more about the stuff we talk about and more about the game and want to see more builds and stuff and you haven't subscribed yet, I really would love you to join the channel. Just click that red button. It's pretty easy, for free as always, blah blah. Hope you have a good day. Stay safe everyone. I talk to you in the next one, and goodbye.